In this video, we'll be replacing the ignition coil on this Ford F-150. So we're going to start with disconnecting our negative terminal on our battery. It's going to be an 8mm here. Just going to loosen that up enough to take off that terminal. And we can set that terminal aside. So now our ignition coil is down here on the side of the engine block. To gain access to that, we're going to remove our intake tube. We're going to use a flathead screwdriver on our band clamp. And then if we follow this tube rearwards, we have two more band clamps right up by our throttle body. Again, flatheads. One right inside this cover. And then one right here. Now to remove this intake tube, you'll see we have one hose going right to our valve cover. We can remove this hose from our intake tube or our valve cover. We're going to take it right off of the valve cover. Just by pulling straight up. We'll remove that breather. All right, now with our intake tube loose, we shall pull it straight off. And from the inside, we'll move this breather tube on the other side of our power steering, and we'll pull this tube straight off. So now we have access to our ignition coil. On top of our ignition coil, we have our one spark plug that goes to our distributor. We're going to pull that up and disconnect it. And we can set that plug aside. Just in front of that, we have our power plug going to our coil. We're going to disconnect that as well. We're going to use a pick tool to see if we can get that plug to open up. And there's your plug. And we can set that plug aside. Now holding our coil to a metal bracket. So now we have 4 bolts holding in our ignition coil. They're going to be 7/32. You have one in each corner. There we go. Okay, and we're going to lower our new coil into position, reinstall our 4 bolts. And now we can tighten down our 4 bolts. And now from here, we can take our coil plug wire, push that onto that plug terminal, and then our power, and clip that into the power terminal. Okay, so now we're going to put our intake tube back on. So we have 2 ports up here by our throttle body. We're going to seat those in. Make sure they're flush all the way in. And we'll tighten down those 2 band clamps in the top. And while we're on top here, we'll put our breather back in to our valve cover. Just push that straight in. And we'll work our way back to our air filter housing. Slide this back into place. Again, make sure it's fully seated. And tighten down that clamp as well. All right, now onto our negative battery terminal. Seat that onto the terminal. Make sure it's pressed all the way down and rotated in a way where we can get to that bolt and tighten it back up. And we're only going to tighten this up until we get it to not spin. Make sure it's nice and tight. We don't need to over tighten it. And that's it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.